Hey, I'm Zach, Johnny's producer on his podcast, Masters of Wealth. Today on the show, Johnny's sitting down with Peter Hirsch, a self-ascribed social entrepreneur and an international speaker that's got some hot takes on the value of charity on both sides of the equation. Stick around to hear Johnny and Peter talk about what exactly it means to be a social entrepreneur, why being happy with money isn't always a good thing, and why the first goal of any charity isn't what you think.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Johnny Wimbrey. Welcome back to the Master of Wealth show. I am super excited about our guest today, actually in studio. We have an in-studio guest here at Wimbrey Training Systems headquarters here in Southlake, Texas. And you've already heard him during the introduction, but let me do it again. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Masters of Wealth show, my good friend, entrepreneurial, so many titles that this man walks in. Mr. Peter Hirsch, welcome to the show.
Johnny Wimbrey.
I'm excited.
I got to tell you.
Yes, sir.
I am so excited about this. Because really, I've
been
been
talking
following
about this
you
for a while.
Haven't we?
Yeah.
Man, remember that time on the plane? We happened to be sitting next to each other.
In first class.
Yeah, got to throw that in.
Yeah, I got to throw that in.
Yeah.
We had peace. It was just me and you. Nobody in between us. You weren't sitting right next to me. It was first class. There we go.
That's exactly right. And here's the thing.
Yes, sir.
I had been following you for a decade.
Really?
You know why you're one of my heroes? Can I tell you this?
Here we go.
Here's the thing. Your story, that rags to riches story, and that's just the beginning of your story.
Yes, sir.
I love that so much, and as much as I've accomplished, I don't have a rags to riches. I have a riches to rags story. I'm exactly the opposite.
Backwards.
It's riches to rags, then somewhat to riches. Wow. But so
let's talk about that. That'd be a good subject. So, Peter has been a mentor to me in the last 6 months of my life. I'd say the last 4 or 5 months, I've been able to lean on you in a way that that made me feel safe. My favorite book says, "In the multitude of counsel, there is safety," and which basically means where you don't have counsel, you're not safe. And you've really been one of those people in my life in this season, like right now season, that I've been able to lean on, and it has caused me, not to go crazy. Not to get in my car and go visit a few people. You've been helping me out. But, my story is more of a tragedy to triumph. The rags to the riches are the bonus. But it's really tragedy to triumph for things that I've gone through in my life. And, someone like you that has accomplished so much in life, according to the world standards. Typically we measure accomplishments based on titles and degrees and things like that. And I think that's worthy. I think that's an amazing place to start. But you, Peter, you're just not hiding behind degrees or, being an attorney or even, being a best-selling author. And, you've been seen with some of, some incredibly great people. And I'll let you talk about that. But you're the message that you bring. There are a lot of, intellectual individuals that walk in high level of degrees of education that I respect their education, but I don't necessarily respect what they're a part of. But you, from the inside out, man, the humility, the willingness to help, the love for people, your charities, and just your, how benevolent you are in terms of giving, brother. You, my friend, and I don't say this about a lot of people, I believe you and your wife, Karen, I believe that you guys are in a league of your own in terms of your heart and what you've been able to establish and the fact that you feel like you probably haven't even gotten started yet.
Brother, you don't even know what that means to me. I am serious. People fluff you all the time, right?
Yeah.
I
don't do fluff.
Yeah.
I can always find something that I like about somebody. Like, man, those are some amazing glasses. I know how to get away from having to do fluff. It's just, it's tangible and it's real in my life.
And from someone like you, who I respect and admire so greatly and so deeply, it means the world. You said one thing, though, I want to focus. I know this is not a theology-based podcast, but you said something, man, we got to touch on.
Let's go.
Okay.
I love it.
The degrees and all the accomplishments I do have. 2 doctorates.
Let's talk about that, because let's act like we're talking to people that have never heard of you, never researched you. Let's talk about your accomplishments, and then I want you to finish that statement.
Because the ending is way more important than what I've accomplished.
Yeah.
straight out.
I believe that.
I mean straight out.
I believe that because I know you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's really, on paper, I'm really good. And, there's some people who don't like me. And here's what I say to them. If you don't like what you know about me, man, if you knew the inner secrets of my heart, you really wouldn't like me. Because I have some stuff I've got to get rid of.
Ooh.
And I work on it daily.
Confession is good for the soul.
I'm telling you straight out. It's just straight out. So it's really important. I am more than my degrees, and so are you. So are you. You're more than your lack of degrees.
Than my degrees, and so are you. The lack, say that one more time.
More than your lack of degrees.
Ooh, more than your lack of degrees.
Right.
Wow.
Because here's the thing. I have them. I have a law degree.
Mm-hmm. And you're the top of your class at a very prestigious school.
Very prestigious. Went to what's widely considered the top law firm in the world. The lawyers who are watching would absolutely know the firm, and just Google me. It's easy to find.
I've been in meetings with him with multiple attorneys, and I didn't feel safe, so I took him with me. And that's the first thing they started talking about. I just sit back and listen, and I remember the response when you said, the firm that you were a part of. I remember just the energy in the room changed and went to your side immediately.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you straight out, this is why I don't want to mention the name of the firm. Wonderful people, really the top of the top for a reason, but I was miserable.
Why?
I felt like all I was doing was protecting people from members of my own profession.
You were ooh.
It wasn't something that I was passionate about. First of all, there were two reasons I became a lawyer.
Let's talk about that.
Okay. The first is because, remember, I grew up Jewish in Long Island. I didn't have that many options.
Did you have the little curlies?
No, it wasn't that.
You were Orthodox?
I was, but not ultra-Orthodox. So we didn't go that
There's
far.
a level.
Oh, are you kidding?
You're closer to heaven.
Oh, my
if you're
gosh.
Ultra, you got the twisties.
There's many levels.
No, I've been to Israel several times. I've done business in Israel for over 10 years, and probably about 13 or 14 years, and I think I've been to Israel maybe 12 times.
Let me tell you something. You come to Israel with me, I'll show you Israel.
All right, come on, man. Get your falafels on and your shawarmas and all that.
I know our wives want to go.
Let's go. Karen, you want to go?
I want to go.
So here's the thing. This is, man, we can get sidetracked, can't we? This is awesome.
Stay on this because you have two reasons you became became an attorney, but you have a Jewish background.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I became an attorney first because I couldn't handle organic chemistry. In other words, I had an option of law school or medical school. Those were the only options I knew about growing up.
Why?
Because that's what Jewish parents do. Ooh. You're going to law school, or you're going to you're going to medical school.
That reminds me of a book. I want to say it's been over 20 years, over 20 years now. And there was a book. One of my mentors was teaching from stage, and he was talking about the Jewish background or bringing up, and someone said, "What are your kids' names?" And you're talking about two little bitty kids. He said, "Which one are you talking about, the doctor or the lawyer?"
No joke.
That blew me away. So
I'm telling you, I was introduced. This is my son, the doctor, probably from before I could talk. There were just no options.
I kind of respect that a little bit.
There are some great things to it.
Yeah.
There are no question about that. There are some benefits to being totally education focused.
Just that mindset, the mindset of visualizing your offspring, walking with a prestigious title, that part of it. But the other part of it is, what if it's not their ordained path, like the path that they're supposed to be going down, according to their call in life?
Unlike every other creature on earth, we have the dignity of choice. Jewish kids don't often have the dignity of choice. I'm telling you, I did not grow up with choice straight out. But that was the first reason.
Is it like that in Israel as well, or is it more so once you come to America?
Much less so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel that because I've been there several times and it didn't seem like it was that big of a push.
And actually, it's even less so now in the United States than what.
In New York.
In New York, and the reason is the further the deeper you go into the culture you live in, the more you become part of it. So I was only second generation American.
Yeah. I spoke at I was in Brooklyn, and we rented out a place where I was going to speak, like a leadership breakout. And it was in Brooklyn, like a Jewish community, and it was huge. I didn't realize that there were so many Jewish people in Brooklyn. But I remember it was a workout facility for women only. And they had these little shoes that you put on, you just bounce on or whatever. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Yeah. But it was part of that community. And I started to learn and started to research. One of the things that I love, and it's totally off topic, but one of the things that I love, I was at a Shabbat dinner in Israel. During the high holy days, and it was a Friday night, and my business partner Oz, who you know Oz now. So Oz invited me to be a part of the family dinner. Yeah. So my brother going to a Shabbat dinner. It was amazing, by the way, and I've never in my life seen so much food continue to come out, and there's only like 8 people there. I'm like, there's more food coming out. But he said, and I just realized like the honor and the respect of the father in the home, it just really stood out to me. And I said, just the way that you guys honor your parents is I was taught that I had an honor of fear. Like I could not disrespect my father at all. There's just fear. Not even my mother. Even though they weren't together, my father, if he knew I disrespected my mother, I'd have to pay the consequences. But he said, you know why? He said, in the Jewish culture, we teach that your parent is closer to God than you are. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? Well, they were born before you. And he's like, chronologically, they're closer to Adam.
Very interesting.
And they said, the reason we respect our elders and our parents is because we're looking up to where we come from, and disrespecting them is disrespecting God.
That is a Hasidic school of thought for sure. And by the way, we are so off topic, but isn't this great? And by the way, the mother in the home is, if not more respected, at least as respected.
Yeah, I felt that.
It is deep. As a matter of fact, one of the traditions that's gone on for over 1,000 years is at the Shabbat meal, the children and the father recite Proverbs 31. Yep. There's in a certain tune, all toward the mother.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that still goes on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it really, that is an amazing thing.
Wow.
It's an absolutely amazing thing.
All right, let's get back on topic.
That's right. So the second reason.
We're in the Master of Wealth show. We got Peter Hirsch. I'm going to call you a master attorney. I know that, you and your wife come from the background of, corporate and attorneys and things like that. And now you guys bleed entrepreneurialism from the inside out. So tell me the second reason that you became an attorney.
So the second reason was I was passionate about justice. That I was always growing up. I grew up in a culture of persecution, and it was real persecution. I mean, it was deep. Yeah. So I was always taught from my grandparents that you fight for the underdog. Now, I didn't know what form that was going to take place, but as a lawyer, this was going to be an opening. Now it turned out, because I graduated at the top of my class and I had options that I never dreamt of before, I took it and I sold out.
Really?
And it was the first major lesson of my life. You do something for money and you will be miserable.
Wow.
If you do something just for money.
Yeah.
The rewards are great, but to focus on the money, oh man, what a huge mistake. Now, so here's what I want to say. Because of that, because I was not living my mission, living my passion, living my purpose, I fell into very deep depression.
Really?
So we read the same book.
To making money.
Exactly. That's the point. Because we read the same book. Without a vision, our people perish.
Absolutely.
That's where I was. I was at that point. And it was miserable.
So you were this giant building walking down the street, imploding from the inside out.
That is perfect.
So you had an implosion going on, a personal implosion.
So here's part of that lesson. Listen to this carefully.
I like the way he works the camera. You see how he does that? Like he come into my studio, working my cameras better than I'm working them. And we have a multiple camera shoot. And I'm not going to talk about your TV background unless you want to talk about it.
We'll do that another time.
Okay, we'll do another time. He told me, don't talk about the television stuff. Okay. But you work in these cameras. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate that. But this is such a serious point because we said earlier, right? You're not your degrees.
Yeah.
Every degree I had and everything I had accomplished in the world standard meant nothing in God's economy. God's economy was exactly the opposite. As a matter of fact, it took me losing everything to finally be able to look up to him.
So that's the definition of sacrifice.
Well, it wasn't a...
No, you were the lamb.
Okay, there you go.
you were the thing being sacrificed. But
yeah, as I was sacrificed, somebody said to me, don't you see what a blessing all this turmoil is? It led you to God. And my first reaction was, a vision would have been just fine. A vision? Right? But the truth is, with all the arrogance I had and the self-centeredness...
No, Jewish people don't have arrogance.
There are certain national traits that I'll accept. But man, I'll tell you, those issues had to be dealt with.
Sure.
Who I was at that time could never attract a person like Karen. Never in a million years. My head was so big I could barely fit in a car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think it came from, so you started out this path to walk in a purpose of justice.
Yeah.
And so your attraction to the legal space or legal world, even though you were being pushed down that road, but you fell in love with the passion for justice, which a lot of people who come from the, a real, like Jewish genealogy as well as African American, genealogy, we kind of fall in love, those who do, with a passion to help set people free because of what our people went through, right? How did you get detached from your why, your WHY? Like, this is the Master of Wealth show, and my definition of wealth comes from the inside out. It's inner, being, it is money, but money is just one ingredient. It's just one ingredient, but being happy and fulfilled.
You know what I've learned about money? It's easy for people like us to say money doesn't make you happy, right? Because we have.
Yeah.
But so here's the reality about money. Money does not make you happy, but lack of money can add to your misery.
It can make you evil, too.
That's exactly right.
It can make you evil.
People will do things they would not ordinarily do that are totally out of character.
Did you find yourself walking out of your character into this new title?
I found myself, whenever you don't live what you're meant to live, everything in life goes astray. Just nothing works.
I want to repeat that.
Yeah.
Whenever you're not living what you're meant to live,
everything in life will go astray.
Everything goes astray.
Every aspect. Your relationships, your finances. Because...
Ooh, hold on. The title of his book.
Ah, very good.
Living the Significant Life. Let's talk about significance, because that's what you're talking about right now.
Perfect. That was a great segue. You're good at this. Man.
Thank you.
So here, this book, you don't need to buy it. Let me give you the whole book in one sentence.
And then go buy it.
If you want. Here it is. Success, as important as it is and whatever people think it is, success is what happens to you. Significance is what happens through you.
Oh,
isn't that good?
Look at this wisdom in the room.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that good though?
Significance is what happens through you.
Right. So you can go we're in Southlake. Down the block, we have a beautiful Barnes & Noble here.
Yeah, right.
You can just spend, do you remember when it first opened, maybe there was a shelf of personal development. Yep. Now there's half the store. A giant section.
It's actually divided into now faith-based personal development.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's huge.
And there's a lot that will teach you how to be successful. You know what the stuff that's great? The stuff that will never get in a book.
That's why I do this show. I literally do this show because it opens up layers, like you're pulling back layers, and you have viewers and people who are watching this all over the world that are stuck, frustrated, and here's a word we don't talk about a lot: is confused, because confusion is an admission.
Yeah,
I'm admitting that I don't know. I'm admitting that I'm distracted from distractions. So the confusion, and that's why I do this show, man. I really want to hear.
I love it.
I want people to hear from real people who've really been through some things and who really have a heart and a passion to pull people through.
Yeah.
By telling their story.
That's exactly right. And significance, when people are living their best, not financially, that always is nice, and that helps. And we like nice stuff.
Sure.
Nothing wrong with that. Okay. When you're really living your best, and by the way, there is no, I'm going to say this straight out, there is no such thing as living your best without living a life of service.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Why would someone need to subscribe to that thinking in life as early as possible?
As early as possible. Because here's the deal. The trajectory of your life, you can change it at any time.
That's a big word.
But man, it's right away. The earlier you can set your trajectory, it's a tough word to say.
Yeah, tough word to say.
Yeah, but the earlier you can do that, the better off you're going to be.
So the benefits, when would you say that you were in alignment with your purpose? At like what age?
Well, it's when I discovered it, but then I left it. You know, I told you the story of how I left but when I knew it,
Can we talk about that just a little bit?
When I found it, when I discovered it,
yeah,
sure. And I didn't know that my dad was really generous. You know, growing up, I knew he was involved in the synagogue, but I didn't know that he was one of the main contributors.
Really?
I didn't know that when anybody in the entire area went to jail for whatever reason, it was my dad who gave the money for bail.
When did you find that out?
I found that out at his funeral.
I got chills. You know why? I this no joke. I just thought to myself 2 days ago, my kids are going to find out a lot about me at that time, because there probably will people who will come tell stories that I've never told.
Yeah.
Of how I've helped people. And then I thought to myself, is that beneficial? Is it selfish for me to not tell these stories of people that I've helped?
It's that balance of humility and wanting to help more people.
Yeah.
You know, giving is a great example of that.
You and your wife, the first thing that I knew about you, the first thing I knew about you guys is, you know, top leaders of leaders, legal background. Your wife comes from a corporate background, so highly respected straight across the board in terms of, you know, business and entrepreneurialism. But the giving, you know, the foundation, your heart, it outshined everything, because when I found that out, I'm like, I was just with him. He didn't tell me any of this. And what you guys are doing in terms of giving back, and one of the segments that I teach is you got to give up to get up. You got to give up to get up. You're not giving because you want to move up. You're giving because it's part of the process. It's part of the character building process. So I would like to talk a little bit about, you know, I know you've been in Mexico and you know, a lot of third world countries, even beyond that. And you've been seen with very high profile people, politicians, and, you know, on a global scale. What are you working on? What is going on? What strategic moves are you making? You're playing chess in a very, very, very big way right now, and I'm watching.
Something really exciting. I got to tell you. You know, there's this concept of social entrepreneurship. I've been saying...
Yes, I want to talk about that.
I have been saying for 10 years that social entrepreneurship will be the next iteration of network marketing.
That was going to be my next question.
I've been wrong. I've been wrong so far.
Okay.
But we may finally be headed there. So when people hear that term, though, really very few people know what it is.
Social entrepreneurialism. This is something that I feel like I wouldn't say mastered, but it's something that I feel like that I have taught and benefited in a way that I've not been able to articulate what it means. But when you put those two words together, it takes me back to the last 15 years of my life of how I made something work that wouldn't work with the masses, but because I made it social, it worked.
And that's clearly part of it. Let me give you, because, the definition hasn't been solidified yet. I taught it a few semesters ago. So let me give you the definition.
As a professor?
Yes.
Okay, that's a whole nother show.
So the working definition of social entrepreneurship is taking the cash flow, business know-how, technologies of a for-profit company and combining it with the heart and the passion and the purpose of a not-for-profit organization with the goal of creating sustainable change.
Sustainable change.
That is some radical thinking. The reason why that is so crucial, man, this is a show, but I got to go there. I got to tell you how this hit. So after the tsunami hit in Southeast Asia,
the first one.
The first one.
Okay.
It was Christmas Eve. Yeah, it was just wild. We were among the first North Americans into Sri Lanka.
Really?
For about 15 years, I actually needed therapy after that. I'm serious, because the images just wouldn't leave my head.
Wow.
But so we were rebuilding. Now, as soon as the news stopped, it took about 6 months, and there was another global tragedy. Well, the media stopped covering it. What did that mean? It meant the funds stopped flowing. So, because it was all what I now lovingly call Christian begging. Do you know what I mean? That's what all pastors have to become masters of. Right. It's the begging model.
Right.
Well, the social entrepreneurship model is exactly the opposite of the begging model.
Tell me.
It's the sustainability model.
Okay.
So we were there as a group of pastors and faith leaders that were in Sri Lanka saying, okay, something's got to change. Something has to change. We can't keep begging. The well is dry.
Right.
And we literally were praying for a solution. You never know how that's going to show up, right? About the next day, somebody introduced us to a man named Muhammad Yunus, who was a professor of economics from Bangladesh. And he had started a program at the University of Bangladesh giving $25 loans, only to women, by the way, and only to women who were literally unbankable, could not become bankable. That's who he sought out to help them start small enterprises. By the way, 15 years later, Grameen Bank now has billions of dollars on deposit, and check this out. Still only lend to women, because if you lend to a man, this was the thinking at the time, I'm not making a value judgment. If you lend to a man, they spend it on themselves. If you lend to a woman, they spend it on the family or to start a business.
Wow.
And Grameen, their mandate is it's for the sake of starting a business. But check this out, over a 98.5% repayment rate.
Really?
What other bank can say that? It's in
Wow.
small, it is shocking. As a matter of fact, and he called it microfinance. Small ways to finance business. But it was always for the sake of business. So he would help people rather than have to stay in the begging model.
Right.
He would help them become sustainable.
To me,
is that one of the most beautiful things in the world?
It's so beautiful, and I learned that word sustainable as I'm getting very close to being kicked out of kicked off a trip where we went into Guatemala to build a school. And there's a group of us. We all go together. We're going there. We're getting dirty. My wife and I, we financed the school, but we wanted to go get dirty too. So we went in and got dirty. And we do a tour through the village and the hills and things like that. And we went into their huts. And I went into one of the huts, and there was a little girl. It was smaller than this room. The whole hut was smaller than these four walls right here. And in the corner of one of the corners, there was a fire, and the fire is where they had the pot, and that was their stove. And I'm emotional thinking about it because there was maybe a 9-month-old baby sitting very close, and it scared me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's sitting too close. if one of those pieces of wood falls and that water tips out and falls on the baby. And the teenage girl that was there, and it was during the day, she went at school, maybe like 13 years old, on her back was a 2-year-old kid. So she was in charge of these 2 kids. And I was just terrified to leave them. And I said, you know what? I'm buying stoves for everybody.
Isn't that great?
And they said, well, yeah, I thought it was great. And they said, Johnny, you can't do that. And I'm like, no, I'm buying who's going to stop me? Who's going to tell me what I can't do with my money? And the next day they set me down. I had a group meeting with everybody and said, hey guys, they're coming against me right now. I need you guys to stand with me. I need to be on one accord. They're telling me what I can't do. We got your back, Johnny. Now these kids were from Brooklyn and they're from the street. So we got your back. And they pulled me aside, and a few of the volunteers that came multiple times, they said, Johnny, you can't. And I was like, what do you mean I can't? He said, because it's not sustainable. And I was like, what do you mean?
Great.
Yeah, my heart was in the right place.
Your heart was great.
And I said, well, what do you mean it's not sustainable? He said, Johnny, if you buy this family, just say you do it for this one family. When you leave, the hell that family's going to have to go through. Because they're going to be wondering, what did you do that he bought you a stove? What did you do character-wise? And they're going to be shunned by the entire community. And then I started understanding we have to help them build this atmosphere where they can sustain their life and give them something.
That is the key, helping people become sustainable.
I swallow my pride, man.
We are together. We're working with what we call the Boom Foundation.
Yeah.
Powerful. We had a goal to provide 1 million servings of proper nutrition to some of the most vulnerable kids in the world by the end of 2019. We reached almost 5 million.
Are you serious?
Because of the generosity of all those involved. I mean,
That's
it was
awesome.
incredible. But here's the thing. So many times people come up to me, how can I help? I want to get involved with the Boom Foundation. And my response at the beginning is, I appreciate your heart, love your heart. Help your family become sustainable first. You want to be a radical giver? I support that. I hope people see radical givers when they look at Karen and me. It's hard to be a radical giver when you're not sustainable yourself. So it's very, very important.
Is that how you came up with the term?
Which term?
Social entrepreneurship?
Actually, it was Muhammad Yunus who came up with the term.
Okay.
Yeah, he came up with that, the whole concept and the term of social entrepreneurship. People just didn't know it, combining a business that is for the sake of solving problems. But here's the key. The first metric, oh man, do I get pushback on this, mostly from pastors. The first metric of social entrepreneurship, you know what it is?
What's that?
Profit.
Really?
That's the first thing you measure. Why? Because without profit, the mission ends. Now, it's not about hoarding profit, but if you don't have let me tell you something. People do not like hearing this. I don't know any broke philanthropists.
Yeah.
There aren't too many broke people building hospitals.
That's true.
So now I'm not saying your focus needs to be creating wealth at all.
Okay.
At all. But sustainability for yourself is, for your family, is absolutely crucial.
Okay.
It has to come first.
I love it. Yeah. It reminds me of another thing that we've done in Liberia is we sent a group over. I wasn't able to go to this one, but we helped finance it, and we went there to dig wells for just to have health safe water to drink. And while we were over there, we realized the second time around is we were teaching this water purification system that literally come from the ground. You really don't need a lot of materials, but they taught them the science behind it. And it was the women that we were teaching, and we taught them how to teach it as well, but be the business owner of it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Because now you're helping them. When you,
I didn't know the word, but that makes sense now.
It is. That becomes now that entire family for generations.
Right.
One of the greatest ministries I was ever involved with was a single mother's ministry, where for 2 years, this ministry would finance the school, childcare, groceries, and all of a sudden a single mother would go from a $10 an hour sales job, retail job, to maybe being an RN earning $50,000 or $60,000 a year, something like that. Do you know the ripple effect? You are changing generations at that point. Yeah. So that's what sustainability is about. What we're doing in Mexico, you brought it up.
Come on.
Yes, even now and then I get chills when we talk about it. Yes, we're providing proper nutrition because let's face it, nothing happens if the brain's not functioning and the body's not growing.
Very true.
Okay. But aside from that, we're working with President and Mrs. Fox.
Mm-hmm. And you invited me. I wasn't able to go.
Yeah, next time.
Yeah, next time.
And you'll see footage
of it
very
soon. Mexico.
The former president of Mexico.
The former president of Mexico.
Yeah, the guy who basically brought democracy and capitalism to Mexico. Yes.
And you're working directly with him and his family.
Directly with him and his family.
That's beautiful.
We put together a wonderful dinner with him. But he also he's the only past president of Mexico that still lives in the country.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. He has a passion for the next generation. Because in Mexico, what happened, and frankly, in a lot of Latin America, as the 2000s came and prosperity really came into the world, Latin America was left behind.
Really?
Yeah. He has a passion to develop leadership.
I love it.
And as a program that he does, he has the only presidential library in all of Latin America.
I remember you telling me that.
And it is something special. One of the programs they have is President for the Day, where they bring in the poorest of the poor. And they speak into these kids' life, elementary school kids, speaking into their lives. You can be president.
That's life-changing.
You can be president.
Life-changing.
So the leadership development, why are we so excited about partnering with them? Because that is sustainability. You help these kids out of poverty.
Right.
And by the way, the greatest poverty is poverty of mind.
Yeah.
Right? It's the mental poverty.
Wow. The lack, like you said, people perish because of the lack of knowledge.
Right.
You just don't know what you don't know in vision. So you have people who are listening and watching right now from around the world. If there was a message, as we're starting to wrap up, if there was a message, let's say you got a 2-minute message that you would want our listeners and viewers to know from your heart, how to get in touch with you, where are you at, what do you want to leave them with under the umbrella of everything that we have discussed so far? What is tugging at your heart right now that you want to get to the masses?
More than anything, don't sell out. Find your purpose. But let me tell you something. You are going to be presented with opportunities for you to, the closer you get to your vision, the more you're going to get opportunities distracting you. And let me tell you something. The number one enemy of great is good. Do you get that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that is a powerful thing for people to understand. Don't settle for good. I'm easy to find, by the way.
Wow.
Find me on Facebook, on Instagram.
We'll put all your handles. It'll be below as well.
Okay.
We'll have it on there.
Yeah, I have to find somebody who knows them to get it to you. Absolutely.
We'll get them to you.
Yeah.
So this is Peter Hirsch, a really good friend of mine, a business partner. And we're going to do things together for a very long time on a global basis. Our new venture that we have started together, we'll be together in a couple weeks or next week with about 9,000 people. And that's really just us getting started. It's really just us getting started. The reason I love, the Boom Foundation, the founder of the company, one of my best friends on the planet, Mr. Holton Buggs, and just give him a quick, a shout out because he's the one who brought our worlds together. Even though we've known of each other, I've known of you. I didn't know who you were though. I've actually seen you and didn't know who you were when I met you. And it's because there's a right across the street. I've seen, I've heard, I've read. And man, I want to just congratulate you on your heart and your passion. The reason we call it the Master of Wealth Show is because we want to bring masters on here who have mastered something under the umbrella of wealth. And to me, wealth is loving who you are, loving whose you are, loving what you represent, and financially prospering because you are living in your passion. And you're not just, walking to the beat of somebody else's music, and just because you know that music, that's who you want to be. And that really moves me a lot, the fact that, you're a high-level attorney. You're a high-level sought-after individual in the legal space. And for you to admit that you did get caught up, you did get distracted, and I don't know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be invited to great tables, but I also know what it feels like to realize this is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm honored to be here. I'm glad that you want me here, but it's not a part of where I'm going to be. It may elevate my visibility, but sometimes, the greater the stage, the greater the fall. And there's certain visibilities that that aren't designed for me.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to me that you've shared that.
And the reality is, the greater the fall, the greater the qualifications. The qualifications usually come after the fall as a result of the fall. Yeah. You show me somebody who's only had success, I'm going to be reluctant to follow that person.
Yeah.
You showed me somebody who has struggled and overcome. Man, there's something to learn there.
I love it.
What does Holton Buggs always teach us, right? That products don't make people wealthy, compensation plans don't make people wealthy, but it's vision and leadership.
That's right.
It's all about vision and leadership.
So speaking of that, right now we are 2020. It's an election year for us. I don't normally talk about politics.
Oh boy, here we go.
You're so more than qualified to talk about it. What should
Karen is cringing right now. She is terrified. Karen is terrified that I'm going to let go.
No. What should people be looking for right now? Like as they're going in to vote, we have seen, and I thought about this yesterday, that, I don't want to be a part of anything that causes me to be less of who I am to be in your circle.
You don't know how hard this is for me not to speak out. Literally at home.
We just saw something happen that made history of somebody standing up against their party.
Yeah.
And I don't think we've ever seen it that way.
Yeah.
I'd say in the last 10 years. But it's almost becoming like a gang.
It really is, and the polarization is actually dangerous.
Yeah.
It's if you look at where the country is headed, now I have faith.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. It's a shaking.
But here's what we know. We know that red and blue are not gods. Mm-mm. There's only one.
That's right.
So no matter who it is, but I have to say a little.
Go for it.
I just have to.
Come on!
So I won't mention names. Don't be led by someone else in who you're going to vote for. First of all, vote. Vote.
Absolutely.
Vote. If we've learned anything over the last decades, your vote counts. Mm-hmm. Vote. Now, second.
Yeah. And not voting is voting for the other person.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Not voting is making a decision of apathy, which is frankly the worst decision anybody could make.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I love this. We've never talked about politics before.
Man.
This is good stuff, but go ahead.
So here's all I want to say. Mm-hmm. Don't be led, whether it's a professor in your class or a pastor leading you, holding a ballot, saying vote only for the candidate that addresses certain issues, because I promise you they are leaving out issues of poverty and homelessness and other important issues that we should care about that are root issues.
Right.
Listen, I have, most of us share similar values.
Sure.
We just don't often understand the root cause.
Right.
So I'm not saying who to vote for. I'm saying vote your heart. Vote your conscience.
Right. And your morals.
And think about it.
Yeah. I think right now, look at the things that I've done in life, the laws that I've broken in life, and the things that I'm not proud of. I would attach it back to not being morally connected. And right now, when you don't have a foundation of morals, not meaning you're going to make all the right decisions, but at least you have a measurement. Like when I made a bad decision and I'm way over here, I could measure how far I'm away from my morals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when you become disconnected from morals, you don't really have a measurement of how far you're away.
You know, when God said to Cain, "Where's your brother?" That was before there were any laws written.
Right. And my brother's keeper, yeah.
Right. What Cain said, "Am I my brother's keeper?" Which means he knows he did something wrong. There were no laws written.
Yeah.
There was no codified code, don't murder.
Wow.
The 10 Commandments weren't given. Why did he know? Because there's something innate. I have messed up more than anybody you know. I'm telling you, if there was a way to mess up, I found it.
Just say, hey, man.
But here's the deal, own it.
Yeah.
And by the way, isn't that an amazing thing? Because if we don't own it and we blame, and it's always somebody else's fault, then we can never change it.
Absolutely.
So the greatest thing we can do is own it for ourselves.
Yeah.
Man, with this election coming up, there is an absolute moral obligation to speak.
You got to participate
through your vote.
That's so good.
Now, you're going to, there was a time, it was just a few months ago on social media. When was it? November? I think it was November, where I would not post anything about business. Why? Because we're in Texas.
Yeah.
Rodney Reed
I remember
was he was moments away from execution.
So everything on your social media page, everything that you did social media wise
for 1 month
was,
wouldn't. And did it cost me in business? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
But he's alive today.
He's alive today. And obviously it wasn't just me. But there were hundreds, thousands of people, but full force.
Yeah, you were
full force. Why? Because you got to stand. I mean, when there's something that crucial, I actually said to Karen, I think it was this week, at some point I may have to go back into law and just represent people on death row. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of innocent people on death row.
I just watched a movie about it.
Yeah. So listen, we can get into so many topics, but this has a lot to do with this coming election.
Yeah.
Please don't let leaders influence you.
Absolutely.
Vote your conscience. Vote what you know is right.
Right. And I appreciate you, man. Thank you for saying that. I would say, to add on to that, doing nothing is doing a lot.
Yeah.
Doing nothing is doing a lot. So you not doing anything is making a big impact in a very negative way. So
democracy isn't normally taken away. Check this out. Democracy normally isn't taken away. Democracy is usually given away.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the history,
there's a lot of obvious things right now.
Yeah, there sure are.
A lot of common sense has gone out the window.
Yeah.
Man, get back to your morals. Get back to your
core.
Your core. Yeah. Your emotional fortitude of what you know is right, what you know is wrong. And, standing for right may not make you popular, but man.
Oh, who cares? Yeah. At some point, who cares?
My kids mean too much to me. To look them in their eye and say, hey, I got caught up and I went this way to be popular. I'm not going to do it.
I got one thing I got to close with.
Go.
Okay. So the Hebrew word for test is nisa.
Nisa.
And it has within it the word nes, which is the Hebrew word for miracle, which means quite literally that within every test, there's the potential for a miracle.
Jeez.
We are being tested now. Individually, we're always tested. Sometimes we fail. Guess what? That's okay. Let's just pass more than we fail and learn from it. But we are being tested as a nation now, and I pray we choose the proper path.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Hirsch on the Master of Wealth Show with your host, Johnny Wembry. It's an honor and a pleasure, brother. I definitely want to have you back. I would love to have all four of us back. My wife, your wife, we sit here.
Oh, man.
And we just have a coffee shop type, table, white table. It's called the white table since Jada has the red table. But yeah, I would love for you to come back, man. Thank you so much. Research this guy. He's a powerhouse. There are a lot of things he doesn't want me to talk about, but if you look at his bio and all this stuff that he has created for decades, you've entertained my household, my children, and man, I appreciate you for that.
Love you, brother.
Love you
awesome.
too. God bless you, man. All right. The Master of the Wealth Show. This is Johnny Wimbrey, another master of wealth. Remember, wealth is from the inside out. Wealth is from the inside out. When you're wealthy on the inside, everything that you desire in life, it just makes it so much more attainable, and it makes it more fun because you're complete from the inside out. Thank you for being on the Master of Wealth Show.
Love you, brother.
My man. Love you too, brother. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Masters of Wealth. To find out more about Peter, check out his Facebook page at facebook.com/PLHirsch or follow him on LinkedIn at Peter L. Hirsch. To learn more about Johnny, follow him on Instagram at Wimbrey and check out his website at johnnywimbry.com. And to hear more episodes of Masters of Wealth, subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform to get new episodes delivered straight to your phone every single Monday. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.